Hello everyone. This brief video will serve to highlight some general similarities and differences between transference-focused psychotherapy, mentalization, and brief psychoanalysis as observed in the three assigned videos, as well as the role of the therapist in each. Although the videos each stemmed from a different mode of therapy, there were some similarities woven into them. Building rapport was one of them. In each of the videos, the therapists were seen using the rudimentary skills necessary to build a therapeutic relationship. For example, they reflected and paraphrased the client's thoughts, they used open-ended questions, and sought to foster a feeling of trust. Additionally, each of the therapists made a conscious choice with regard to the area of focus. During the discussion following the TFP video, the therapist stated, "You must know what you think is the most beneficial area to focus on." This was similar to the brief psychoanalyst who said the consultant must form a hypothesis about the meaning of a patient's communication and behavior at any given moment. All of the therapists also made various observations about their client through verbal and nonverbal cues. For example, the therapist in the TFP video noticed the client's leg moving and addressed that in the discussion. The psychoanalyst assessed his client and found her to be intelligent, expressive, and motivated about treatment. Finally, interpretations bring the client's attention to something they may not have thought of or may not be aware of, and this occurred in each session. The psychoanalyst voiced the interpretation that his client needed to be different from her mother. The others offered an interpretation about how the client's response to the therapist was similar to their reaction to others in their lives, like feeling neglected or disliked. Although there were a few similarities, there were also stark differences between the psychoanalysis video and the other two. The first was in reference to the concept of transference. Transference in TFP and mentalization actually provides the focus for treatment, whereas in brief psychoanalysis it is addressed more as a side effect. There is also a difference in focus on the time period of the client's life. In the psychoanalysis video, there were a lot of references to the client's past and how it is active in the general present. In TFP and mentalization, past experiences are acknowledged, as well as their impact on the literal here and now. Not only is the focus on the client's current life, but what is happening at that exact moment in therapy. There is also a difference in the ideal type of client for these forms of therapy. In my opinion, it seems that mentalization is a foundational skill. In mentalization, the focus is on that skill and can be helpful for clients with a low level of awareness of self. In TFP, there is an increased expectation about the ability to be somewhat self-aware, and in brief psychoanalysis, it seems vital that a client possesses a higher level of awareness in order to gain the insights meant to be gained through the experience. In TFP and mentalization, the way the therapist is viewed is the focal point of therapy. The goal is to help clients learn about themselves and others through their experience with the therapist and how that translates outside of the therapeutic relationship. In brief psychoanalysis, the therapist facilitates the conversation, but the focus is primarily on the client and her interactions with others. There is some conversation about the client's feelings regarding the therapist, especially as they are approaching closure, but that dynamic is not the focal point. In TFP and mentalization, the therapist frequently paused to challenge the client's thinking, and this was done in a somewhat confrontational manner. In the brief psychoanalysis session, the exchange between the therapist and the client was more conversational. As the client possessed the ability to mentalize and had a higher level of self-awareness, she was able to develop her own conclusions with less direction from the therapist. While watching the videos, it became very apparent how powerful the role of the therapist can be. Each of the clinicians chose a focus and made an interpretation about the direction in which to take their client. If a therapist wasn't completely ethical and in tune with his or her own biases, this process could potentially become manipulative. As the client in brief psychoanalysis stated, "I never would have put that together." How do we ensure that we are taking our client in the most appropriate direction? When we are forming a hypothesis about the focus of therapy, how do we know when our assumptions are correct?